Hello, everyone. Welcome back to D3 Crashout. So, this is deeply personal, and I'm not sure if I should have made this a story time instead, but it is a very particular feeling where everything feels really good, and you can't seem to get enough of someone, and you really like them, and then, well, it disappears. And you might think I'll be describing a crush, but this is a feeling that I had with every single one of my exes where I all I wanted to do was spend more time with them. It didn't really matter what it was. It didn't really matter what we talked about or what we did. I just enjoyed spending time with that person and being in the moment. And unfortunately, as you spend more time together with someone, they grow more comfortable with around you. And then you actually get to find out who they are. And I start to find things that I no longer respect about the person. Like now we're always on our phone when we're around each other, and by our I mean she. Usually, I sometimes a lot of times actually, I'll just be there looking at them, and they'll be on their phone, and they won't ever notice that anything's wrong, and I'd bring it up. I'm like, hey, it's this personal principle for me that I don't like being on my phone when they're doing it. They're like, sure, and it always comes back, and it gets to a point where you don't want to fight for it anymore. And that's when you start falling out of love. And it's a very broad example. But for me, it's always been I have respect for somebody because they haven't given me reasons to not respect them. And then I get reasons to not respect them because I feel like they don't have the same values with me as a person. And then we fall out of love. And by we, I mean me. And then what do you do? And I historically have sat there and I'm like, okay, I will try to continue to love you even if it's getting harder and harder to every coming day. And I'm going to hope that it is a phase and that you develop into somebody that I want to cherish and continue to hold uniquely to my own with time. And that almost never happens. And by almost, I mean it hasn't happened to me. And eventually we just break up because it happens to them too. It's a two-way street. So yeah. I'm not going to go into the lore of my exes today, but I am going to continue to describe this feeling where you do really like somebody, but the only thing that was keeping you guys together, maybe it was the time you spent apart, or maybe it was an environment or a context in which I think I've already described, but my most recent ex, I fell in love with a time, with a certain person that was crafted by circumstances that were out of her control. And what do I mean by that? It's when maybe you're like at an internship, right? Or you're at work and you have a certain demeanor to you. You go to sensitize to the people that you interact with, and then a friend walks in. And suddenly now you realize that you're a real person who's actually interacting with real people, and you feel emotions for a little bit before you go back to being desensitized, to falling back on all your training, to just, being another cog in the machine for the rest of your shift. It's that. Or maybe that person was a breath of fresh air, or they just woke you up in that moment and you're like, wow, I really do like this person, and then that thing comes back. Maybe it's you're like me and it's a phone. Or maybe there's another thing where they just keep talking about their ex and you're hoping that they wouldn't, and well, you're in denial, like me, and it just keeps on happening. Or maybe you suck, also like me, and every time you're with them, you used to actually talk and conversate, and then all you would do is make out, and then when you say, okay, so what do you want to do, and you guys end up just making out, you cynically say, okay, you want to just find a spot to make out or something, and you piss her off. And it's things like that which kind of make you realize that you might be compromising your values for somebody, and maybe you don't show it in the best ways. And that contentment is what kills marriages. What's what kills relationships. It's when you start to resent the person that you're with, when you only seem to see them as negativity, when you see them as an opportunity to fail, as for a place for things to go wrong. That is when you're already past falling out of love. You don't love them anymore. And you're just biding your time until you're ready to pull the trigger. When you can dissociate enough to break up. And it's something which I've surprisingly experienced multiple times. And it's not limited to people, actually. It's sports too. I played soccer for 14 years, and I used to love it. And then teammates slowly started moving to other things like band or weightlifting or different sports, and I still stuck with soccer. And then I had to move to an entirely new environment and a completely different team, and I was happy for a bit because it was almost exactly like the team that I felt like I'd lost those years ago. And then I got into varsity, and now I'm playing on a different style again. And I thought I'd be happy again because I'm with the same people, but I wasn't because I felt very limited, very constrained, and I started to get desensitized, and I started to resent those feelings of inadequacy and the lack of time that I made for myself to train under this different system and to become a more technical player and not just rely on my athleticism so much. And, well, I rode the fucking bench. And as much as I do love the people that were on that team, I didn't love playing soccer anymore. I didn't even want to train. I'd step out on the field and I just fucking hated working on my weaknesses, which is usually something that I love in sports, which is a very sad realization for myself. So, those feelings. Something that, it's like, if you ever doom scrolling and then you have that sudden wake up call that, wow, I've been scrolling reels for X amount of hours, and then you start try to scroll a few more reels and the dopamine hits just aren't coming. It's that. It's pretty well documented that there's no such thing as enough accomplishment, and some people might say there's no such thing as enough dopamine or too much dopamine, but there is a such thing as too much dopamine. When you keep abusing the same receptor over and over and over again without really working for it, you don't actually experience the growth of your improvement. You just get the happiness of the feeling of growth or improvement, like when reels keep you really well informed and it seems like you're learning a lot of things, but you don't actually retain any of the knowledge. That's kind of just abusing that usual receptor, which is supposed to help you study and become a better, more polished person. And you don't feel like watching the reels anymore, and they lose their luster. It's always this idea of scarcity in which brings you that balance for the continual dopamine hits. And that's what I think love really is. I don't think I've discussed it on this channel yet, actually, but I personally don't believe in the feeling of love, even if I proclaim to have felt it, because we don't have like some special receptor or a common neuron pattern. It's just a concept, and it activates a lot of the bonding chemicals like oxytocin, and you also get the serotonin and dopamine, but more likely you're getting dopamine early on in your relationship and maybe serotonin when you have a familiar response that you keep on getting from that particular person. Like you see them and it brightens up your day, but that's not really love, right? Like love as a feeling that's unique. Like I would get the same boost from just having friends. And you could say that you love your friends. I don't know if anyone's heard of the 4 Greek definitions of love. There's like platonic and there's romantic, there's sexual, yada yada yada. But you might feel a certain way about the people that you love, and you might feel like it's its own original feeling, but it's just a combination of chemicals that are the same reward responses that you get for doing anything that you actually want to do, with the only unique one being oxytocin, which is also your bonding chemical for like people and pets and like living beings generally, but it can also be triggered from things. Yeah, some people get like really attached, like a pet rock, for example. So there's nothing unique about love, at least in scientifically speaking. But I still believe in the concept of something that just hits every single time. They make you happy. They make you stable. They genuinely improve your life. And falling out of love to me just means that that person no longer hits. All right? It doesn't give you that response. It doesn't make you happy anymore. And That's just the unfortunate truth of it. For me, that is. Now, once I lose respect for somebody, right, I need to not only respect you and the work that you do, but you as an individual and your work ethic and the way that you communicate with me and the way that you uphold yourself, right? Having self-consistency, having a regulative behavior. That means actually when you have goals, you're able to pursue them. Those are things that I value highly, and it's something which unfortunately is hard to find, and it's a standard that I hold myself to as well. So I'm not going to attract the people that I actually want until I attain that for myself, which means being comfortable with having that period of loneliness in between. So, yeah. I don't know if any of that resonated, but that is what falling out of love feels like to me. It's when the thing that you thought would last forever, that feeling of happiness that you got again and again and again, fades away. And maybe you're respect based like me, but maybe you're not. Alright, that's about it. See ya.